Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I am joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall
The sweet taste of victory, baby.
and Michael Reed.
What happened on Sunday? I missed it. I was asleep.
The huge victory for the Washington football team, a dominant victory, a 25-3 win over the Dallas Cowboys. We did a reactionary pod with Andy Burrows from the UK. So, that being said, we're going to pick your guys' brains, find out what did you guys think of that game, and then we're going to talk about some presser reactions, Landon Collins' injury, we're going to talk about who our MVP of the season is so far, cast our ballot for who we think that should be. We're going to talk about some trade scenarios for the Washington football team. But that being said, guys, we have a great show lined up for you, so let's get it right into it. Reed, 25-3 victory. What was your immediate reaction to that game?
My immediate reaction was, oh my God, Dallas is terrible. They were playing horrible. It was one of those games where, like, going into it, I picked us to lose on the last podcast, and I'm going to start doing that every week because apparently it worked. But it was one of those games where it was like Dallas finally got a taste of what we had been dealing with for the last 3 years, where it's just injury after injury after injury, and once you get hit with the injury bug and it keeps going and snowballing, you're a shell of yourself. It was a great showing from Antonio Gibson. Finally had a breakout game.
Mm-hmm.
Terry McLaurin had another huge game. He's number 6 in the NFL right now in receiving yards. Montez Sweat continues to play fantastic, and Chase Young continues to impact the game heavily despite not getting a sack. He just commands so much attention, and he's so good against the run. And then, of course, Landon Collins was having his best game so far of the season, and then he goes down with a torn Achilles. And I just think that all around we won in every single phase of the game, including special teams. Tress Way played fantastic. Can't say the same for Dustin Hopkins, but Tress Way did awesome.
Yeah, and right now, Pro Football Focus has Chase Young rated as the highest graded rookie defensive player in the NFL with an 82 grade. The one right behind him is Julian Blackmon with a 74-point grade. Chase Young above and beyond, better than what people thought he was, better than any defensive rookie right now, obviously. What about you, Hall? What was your reaction to that game?
Yeah, I was not really in shock, but just kind of just utter just awe because I haven't seen that dominant of a Redskins win since
A who win?
or a Washington win since where's the dollar? I gotta drop $1 in the pot.
Yeah, you gotta do 10 push-ups.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen that dominant of a Washington win since
The Packers game? The Raiders game?
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe the Packers game that I went to back in 2015. Yeah, 15 with Kirk. And that was, again, there's the offensive explosion with Kirk throwing to Robert Kelly went off that game. Defense was containing Aaron Rodgers. But, yeah, haven't seen one of those in a while. And it was glad to see that Scott Turner kind of finally opened up the playbook, per se. So it was taking deep shots down the field. Terry McLaurin with the big catch. Kyle Allen was a lot more mobile and a lot more kind of swift in the pocket than I ever thought he was, even when I watched him in college. And, just all around, like Reed said, dominant win, all 3 phases of the game. It was just total domination. They took him out back behind the shed, made him pick their own stick off the tree and said, bend over. Whack, 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 whack.
And one thing that's like super, I forgot what I was going to say now because Hall had such a goddamn good analogy. But one thing we were texting about before the game was I couldn't tell if it was like the best game that Scott Turner had called yet and he had finally figured it out, or if Dallas's defense is just that bad. And I think it was kind of a mixture of the both. I think Dallas, obviously, their defense has played terrible all year. They've got a lot going on behind the scenes too in the locker room with the coaching staff. But Scott Turner called a pretty good game, man. He got some people out there in motion. I know Antonio Gibson's first run was a little jet sweep type thing where there was a lot of confusion on that play. Yep. And he called a pretty good game in my opinion. And I'm hoping that continues and it wasn't just because it was against Dallas.
Yeah, everyone has been very critical of Scott Turner over the first 7 games of the season. That is an understatement to say the least. I agree with you, Reed. That was a really good game from Scott Turner. I thought it was a first time that we saw the Washington team be able to have a balanced game plan where they're not specifically having it to be put in pass situations and they have to throw the ball. They can use the run game, and you saw in that Terry McLaurin touchdown, it was off of play action. And that play action is what slowed Trayvon Diggs down just a smidge to allow Terry McLaurin to get by him. And I saw a replay from Tay and Todd's podcast today of that play, and Cornelius Lucas gets blown up into Kyle Allen, and he's still getting hit.
No, that was Brandon Sheriff.
It was Sheriff. I'm sorry.
Sheriff pulled over. Yeah. And Sheriff's gotten driven back into the backfield a few times this year. Still trying to find his feet. But also, real quick, shout out to Tay and Todd. That Terry jersey right there, that's from them. Won it from them. They got fantastic breakdowns and a good podcast. Check them out.
Absolutely. Now, I gave my game beers on the Sunday reaction pod with Burrows and Adam Aniba. So I picked Logan Thomas on offense. I felt deserved a game beer, and I felt Cole Holcomb deserved a game beer. So you guys, who do you think deserves to have the game beers for this week?
My offensive game beer is going to go to none other than my man, Antonio Gibson. I've been singing his praises since the day that we drafted him. I feel like he's kind of, as the season goes on, he's kind of gaining his feet and kind of looking at his like rushing lanes and his tracks and stuff like that as far as a running back, and kind of waiting behind the line and getting more patient behind the line and kind of feeling the line out more, getting more comfortable as a running back. And it was the first time Scott Turner gave him 20 rushes in the game, which I've been calling for, more run. And you see what the result was: more runs, higher average, more rushing yards. The play action was set up very, very, very well that game. So again, I was one of the people that was hard on Scott Turner. So when he does well and calls a great game, I'm going to give him kudos for that. But definitely my game beer for offense goes to Gibson. My defensive game beer would have to go to, I'll go Ryan Kerrigan, just because he's not getting a lot of plays nowadays as a kind of backup third down specialist. But when he gets in the game, he's making the best of his time in the game. Yeah. I think he's up there as like one of like the top 3 or 4, and as far as like pass rush efficiency, as far as when he's on the field. And he added to his sack total as far as going down in Washington history. So gonna give Kerrigan a good old cold one after the game.
Yeah. That's a very, very good one, because Kerrigan does deserve it. I saw a stat from earlier today. His sack per rush statistic right now was top 5 in the league per rush.
That's what I was talking about. Yeah, exactly. I forgot the name of it because I was just scrolling through Twitter because I was so busy at work and I was trying to just get a couple tweets in real quick. But Ryan Kerrigan, man. I mean, again, Mr. Washington himself. Hats off to you, man.
Absolutely. And who are you giving the game beers to there, Reed?
Well, before I hop into who I'm giving it to, can I just say something I just thought about? Antonio Gibson, when he was running the ball well, and you're right, Hall, with his patience and his size and his attributes, kind of reminded you of a young Le'Veon Bell. They're very similar sizes. They kind of have similar skill sets. And if he can just slow it down and have the patience that he had Sunday and do that every week, he could be a fantastic player. They're very similar with their heights and their attributes and the way that they play. But I'm going to go with my game beer on offense. I'm going to go with Scary Terry McLaurin. You love to see Terry McLaurin get into it with Trayvon Diggs, and then literally the very next play just completely outclasses the rookie. And then he even tweeted out something after the game, just being like, I'm a pro. Sometimes that happens. You're still a good corner. Keep it up. And then he gave it an emotionally fired speech in the locker room afterwards, which you could tell is something he's not really comfortable doing, but still got the guys going. And as he learns, as he gets more comfortable as a leader, he'll fall into that role perfectly fine. On defense, I'm going to go with 2 guys. Landon Collins was having the best game so far of this season, until he unfortunately tore his Achilles. We wouldn't have been up if we wouldn't have had that safety if it wasn't for Landon Collins. So he's going to get half of a beer, and then the other half is going to go to somebody who didn't show up too much in the stat sheet but still affected the game, I feel, and that's Chase Young. Yep. Chase Young did not have a sack. He hasn't had a sack in a little while, but he's still affecting offensive game plans. He's still wreaking havoc in the run game, and offenses are scared of him, and it's allowing some of these other guys to just go out there and do their thing. And Montez Sweat, what a freak of nature. So I'm going to go with Terry McLaurin, and then Chase Young and Landon Collins can split a beer.
Yeah, and that's a great pick, because a lot of people have talked about Chase Young not getting these sacks, but the fact is, this defense held the Cowboys to 25% on third down, and a lot of that is attributed to Chase Young and Montez Sweat and the pressure that they were getting on Andy Dalton and Dinichi. So, look, a lot of credit to them. They deserve it, and I'm glad that they're getting some sort of recognition, because the fan base just doesn't know what they're talking about, going after Chase Young and not getting set. He's doing well, and I'm really glad that Jack Del Rio actually said something about that as well.
There's more than just sacks. For
Yeah, I mean, he's
play.
getting double teamed almost every single play. He's getting chips when he's coming around the edges almost every single play. I mean,
And
the line shifting his way, so it's just opening up. Montez Sweat with the one-on-ones. Right. Jonathan Allen's having a career year so far. He's getting a lot of one-on-ones because of Chase Young. So, like you said, Reed, he's affecting the game. Not just again, he only has 2.5 sacks, but PFF has him as the highest weighted rookie. I would like to see where he's at as far as like the rest of the league defensive ends wise, but again, I'm pretty sure he's high up there because he's so stout in the run, and again, he's affecting the game in unseeable ways, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, let's start talking about this Washington football team. Before we get into the news of the day and before we get into who we think the MVP is of the season, let's talk about this team and how we feel about this team heading into the bye week. Did they build confidence with you? What about Kyle Allen, Hall? Did he build confidence with you in this game? And if you could put a number 1 out of 10, just like last week, what's your confidence level?
Yeah, it's baby steps. It's growing here and there. Again, I've always been a person that's thought that if he doesn't turn the ball over or at least limits the turnovers, then he's a viable quarterback as long as you can play stout defense and get the run game going. And you saw that on Sunday. We had the run game going from the first 15 scripts. The defense was playing stout from the get-go. And with that being said, obviously Kyle Allen thrived. He had that one kind of like, what are you doing throw when he was kind of scrambling around, running. I guess he was trying to throw it out of bounds.
At the end, at halftime, yeah.
Yeah, didn't have enough oomph, and it kind of just dropped in the end zone. Luckily, no one picked it off because we ended up getting points before the half right there. But, yeah, he's definitely – if I put a number on it, I think I was at like a 5 or a 6 last time. So I'll just take another step up. I'll go to a 6.5, maybe 7-ish. As long as he can keep the turnovers down and kind of limit the boneheaded throws and mistakes, I think that he can get us to 6 or 7 wins and possibly the division.
Yeah, I think last week I was about a 4, and I'm going to stay right there with Kyle Allen. This Cowboys defense was atrocious. They were able to stay balanced all throughout the game. I felt like that made it easier on Kyle Allen, but that one scramble that Kyle Allen had on like a 3rd and 9 where he was able to escape Leighton Vander Esch and get that first down kind of showed you the kind of athlete that Allen is, and it shows that it is a weapon in the offensive game. And obviously this team, it needs it at some points because the offensive line can't block incredibly well. And Kyle Allen definitely showed, I felt on Sunday, that he is progressing well. So I'll bump it to a 5 now. But I need to see it back to back. I need to see it consecutive weeks. I need to see it going against the Giants. See his performance come back around because we said it all summer long, guys. We needed Dwayne Haskins, whoever was going to be the quarterback of this team, to do their best Alex Smith impersonation. Bucky Brooks said the same exact thing last night. If the quarterback position does that, this team can win games and win the NFC East, and I 100% believe that. What about you, Reed? What's your confidence level with Kyle Allen after that game?
It was a very bad Dallas defense, so it's tough. But I'm going to go with right around where Hall is. I'm going to go with like a 6.5-ish, but possibly even a 7. He knows the offense, and like you said, if he can limit the dumb throws, I think he'll be okay. You can tell the offense just moves better under him. I know that it took him a little bit to get going, like against the Giants, what have you, and people were giving him a bunch of shit and being like, well, see, he had worse numbers than Dwayne Haskins. He had blah, blah, blah. But a lot of Dwayne's numbers came in garbage time. And Kyle Allen, they moved the ball early. He knows where to go with the ball. He knows what to do with it. And I feel more comfortable with Kyle Allen back there right now. I think that as long as he can limit the turnovers and the dumb plays, you can actually win some games.
Yeah, I mean, look at the opponents we got coming up in these next for 3 to 4 or 5 weeks. I mean, they're all kind of poopy defenses. So I mean, he's going to be going out there against defenses that can be beat and can be had. So
look, we have to beat the Giants.
Hall's jumping the gun. You got to beat me to the segment, don't you? You just got to beat it into the ground.
I'm segue, man. I'm on my segue.
Let's talk about right now the state of the team and where in the state of the NFC East and what we expect from this team. Because Morgan Moses talked to the press today, and I thought he had a really good quote about it. And what he was saying is he wishes that they were actually playing the Giants this week because they had such a confidence-building game against the Cowboys that he wants to immediately get back to it and continue to progress and build on that. And I'm 100% with him. I've talked about last week that this game in particular against the Cowboys, that was the get-right game. I even said it to JP last week. This is the game that the Washington football team can get right, and they did. They completely dominated, and it's a confidence-building game to me. I feel really good about this team right now. What about you, Reed? What's your feeling with this football team going forward?
Yeah, I feel really good about him right now, but the thing is, I also felt really good about him after that week 1 win against Philadelphia, and I always point to that as like something that brought so much disappointment to this fan base. Like, this could be another one of those where it's just like we're so high, that was such a dominating win against a team that's really just depleted, and then all of a sudden we get let down. I mean, we lost to the Giants 2 weeks ago. I mean, we could beat the Giants like something when we come back from the bye for sure. The NFC East is so bad. The NFC East is so bad that you can beat any team in here that easily. Right. It's like you could easily see the Washington football team winning any game. I feel pretty good though with where the team's at. I think that the defense is playing well. It's going to be tough to replace Landon Collins. I know that they've tried, but I definitely like not having Troy Apke back there and instead having DeShazer Everett, who has been taking some pretty good angles, a lot better than Troy Apke has, and he might be a missile and he might make some boneheaded plays, but he's a lot better back there as a tackler. I think that has improved our defense. Cole Holcomb had a hell of a game. I think Cole Holcomb improves our defense. So I'm really excited about where this defense is headed, and with a defense that can play dominant, then your offense, as long as they can limit mistakes, you can win some football games and you can play very well.
Yeah, this defense right now is number 1 in the league for points scored on them. They are playing like their hair on fire. They're doing
against the pass.
And against the pass.
Yep.
And obviously with only 59 passing yards last game, that number's going to be moved around a little bit. And you can't expect that every game. But we talked about, again, in this offseason, this defense was capable of playing to that level. And I'm glad that they were able to fix the issues that they had in the back end, because obviously it's paying dividends. What's your feeling with this team, Hall? Do you think that this is a type of victory that they can carry into the next game? How confident are you that they can do that?
Yeah, I mean, I always go back to the basketball analogy because I'm just like such a basketball fan as well. But whenever you're like a shooter, I'm a shooter. So whenever you're in a slump, you just brick and brick and brick. You can't anything. What do you got to do? Either get a free throw, an easy shot, or hit a couple layups. Get yourself into a nice little rhythm. And I think that this team, they even mentioned it before. Jonathan Allen, I think we're going to get into the quotes, but I gotta mention it now because it goes to my point. Jonathan Allen had the quote where even these past 2 weeks, even with the loss of the Giants, these last 2 weeks of practice have been like the best practice they've had like all season, even probably going back to last year.
He said his quote was phenomenal.
Phenomenal, yes, exactly. So that just goes to show you that they're buying into Ron Rivera, they're buying into Jack Del Rio, they're buying into Scott Turner. The team is growing and growing and growing. I mean, it's halfway through, and I thought that we'd probably be record-wise a little bit higher than where we are right now, but obviously the offense in the beginning of the season was kind of lacking. But again, we said all preseason or off-season, the defense was going to need to step up. Defense was going to need to carry the team until the offense kind of got into the swing of things. And I'm not going to say that they got into the swing of things per se because, again, that Dallas defense is so, like, horrible. Mm-hmm. But I will say that the game plan is there where the defense has to give them great field position. Tressway is going to have to do what he does every single game, which is pin people deep. And we're going to have to pin our ears back in for once in our lives to actually play with a lead. And you see what we do when we play with a lead. Defense pins their ears back and go after Andy Dalton, go after what's his name, Bonaducci or something like that. But
Danucci, yeah.
Danucci, yeah. Mm-hmm. But now, as far as where I think they're at, I think that they are going to get a W coming out of the bye against the Giants just because I think that the whole Ron Rivera like cancer treatment thing being over, I think that's been kind of inspiring them and kind of getting the guys like riled up and like kind of bonding them together. So I think that this team is definitely going places. And Ron Rivera said when he came and took the job, he doesn't want to rebuild. He wants to build while winning, and it looks like he's doing that right now.
Yeah, and Kyle Allen actually yesterday spoke to reporters and said exactly what you had just alluded to, where Coach is going through cancer treatment. He's still showing up to practice, leading by example, saying, you guys can still work and get stuff done. You're absolutely right about that, Hall. I'm 100% with you. That is a really good point. Now, let's start talking about how the Washington football team can progress in the season now. Landon Collins tore his Achilles, now placed on IR. He's done for the season. So Cameron Curl, Jack Del Rio in his presser today, talked about how they moved him to strong safety, and then they moved DeShazier Everett to free safety. It worked last week against the Cowboys, obviously, but let's just say that's not really a good measuring stick. The Washington football team called up Jeremy Reeves from the practice squad, somebody that Washington fans know about. He's been floating around there, special teamer, and he's really looking for the opportunity. Eric Reed was offered the practice squad spot on the Washington football team, and he declined. I'm actually blown away by that. I didn't expect him to be on the practice squad for long just to be able to get up and running and then get called up. But apparently he viewed that as disrespectful. What about you, Hall?
Yeah, when you told me that before we even started recording, I was kind of like, really? Because like I said, I've been busy all day. I haven't even really been like on Twitter and all that stuff. But yeah, that's kind of crazy to me because
so hold on. Let me ask the question better because I didn't even like ask a question. I kind of like just ended with a statement. Do you think that the Washington football team has enough in the arsenal, what they have now with Jeremy Reeves and that Troy Apke and Cameron Curl, or do you think that they should pay a little bit extra for Eric Reed?
I think they should pay a little bit extra for Eric Reed. I know that Nick Ackridge had the PFF stats from last year, and he was like one of the lowest rated safeties as far as like coverage and stuff like that. But with that being said, I have a little bit more faith in the veteran playing back there and someone that already knows the system, knows Ron Rivera, knows what he expects out of his defense and as him as a player, and someone that obviously respects Ron Rivera. Like you said before, whenever he declined the practice squad thing, I looked at it as, all right, you're going to be on the practice squad for a couple of days, get back in the football shape, get acclimated, and then we'll bring you up. It's a bye week. You'll be back. You'll be on the squad by like week 9. You'll be in the game in rotation. But yeah. If I was if I was Kyle Smith, if I was Alex Smith, I'd pay him some money too.
Right.
But if I was Kyle Smith and Ron Rivera, I'd just be like, look, here's a couple like extra million. I don't even know. Here's the vet minimum or something like that. Just come on the squad and become a rotational player, and then eventually, hopefully, a starter and contribute. Because again, if you're talking about going all in and trying to win the division, the thing to do would be add a piece to help your defense out to win the division.
Yeah, look, I don't think it. As soon as he declined that, I think that's where you say no.
It's probably out the window, obviously.
Just from like a character standpoint, if somebody's not that excited to join your team with what you have building here, why would you want to add that into it out of desperation? True, yeah. And I feel like the young guys do deserve a shot here, and this is where the defensive coordinator and this is where the secondary coach make their money with Anthony and Chris Harris. They have to get these guys up to speed, get them playing well, and hopefully they can. I think they should keep it in house unless a better trade offer comes down the pipeline, but we'll get into that later. Reed, what do you think? Do they think they should stick with what they have, or should they go pay extra for Eric Reed?
Reed, you should have just left it at that.
Reed, go.
You, now. That's on you. No, I think it's kind of a turnoff after he kind of declined that practice squad spot, because like you guys said, he wasn't going to be on the practice squad that long. But it's especially surprising when you consider his relationship with Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera was the only coach in the NFL that gave him a chance after San Francisco released him.
Yeah.
After the entire Kaepernick thing, he was right there with him. He was the head of a lot of the kneeling. Ron Rivera was like, come on our team. He went to the Panthers. He's the only team that gave him a chance. I'm surprised that he didn't take that as like a, look, you'll be here for a couple of days. You'll be on the practice squad for a little bit, get acclimated, learn the defense, then you'll come up. And instead he just said no. And for somebody who hasn't played in that long or all season, he hasn't had any contact, he hasn't played any football. I mean, you have to wet your feet. You got it. You can't just jump right in to the NFL. So I think he's completely out of the picture. I think they're going to see what they have in some of these younger guys. Cameron Curl has played well. He's played well in coverage against tight ends, and he's done a fantastic job as a tackler. I think that he's somebody that they're really going to rely on in the future, and I think that they want to see what they have in him right now. So I'd say they're just going to roll with what they have for a little bit.
Yeah, and I think John Keim had talked to the Junkies on Monday morning. He brought up a great point. This is where Kendall Fuller's versatile, him being versatile, comes into play because they can move him around. They can play him in safety in some packages. It doesn't have to be on every play. You can do it based on the formation that you're seeing, and that's where Kendall Fuller is worth every penny on top of him making just play on top of plays. I love that from John Keim. He's absolutely right. That's a great way to be able to fill it in case you need it, and you don't have to look desperate and go pick off anybody that you need to. I think Eric Reed kind of solidified himself there. Now, We are in the middle of a presidential race in the United States right now. It's chaos everywhere. It's dominating the headlines.
What happened?
So let's cast our
That's really
ballots.
going on.
Let's cast our ballots to the most valuable player of the Washington football team through the first half of the season.
I'm not gonna lie. I thought you were gonna ask us who we were voting for. I was like, Kyle, stop. No.
No, but in all seriousness, I think that we should talk about it because this is 8 weeks through the season. We've seen this team play pretty well and terribly, and I think we should have a pretty good depiction of the first half. Who the MVP of the season so far is. And Reed, you can start first.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the most tremendous people in the world that are out here. They're very good people. The best people, some would say. They're tremendous. No, I'm gonna go.
That's actually pretty good.
I'm gonna go with Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin has been our only weapon on offense just about every game this season until Antonio Gibson broke out this past week, and he's still just dominating. He was our only wide receiver. He's kind of put the team on his back. He's number 6 in the NFL in receiving yards, despite not having good quarterback play, and he's just consistent. And he's getting the ball. You can't stop him. And when somebody comes up and talks shit to him, Terry McLaurin goes, all right, fine, I'll take it 55 yards to the house on you and just burn you by 10 yards. And he did that, and he taught the young kid a lesson. I'm going to go with Terry McLaurin as my MVP only because I can't pick Ron Rivera with what he's done with his cancer and still showing up every day. He rang the bell yesterday. That was the real victory Monday. And since I can't choose Coach Ron, I'm going to go Scary Terry. I picked him for everything today.
Now, but before we move on, though, you brought up a really good point with Terry and him kind of being a leader. Morgan Moses spoke to reporters, and he actually had a great quote regarding Terry. Reed, what was that quote?
What was it? Say it again.
The Morgan Moses quote on Terry McLaurin.
Okay, yeah, I was sorry. I wasn't listening. I was too busy getting ready for coronavirus. Morgan Moses, Terry McLaurin, he talked about McLaurin's post-game speech. He said, it's out of his, and this is something that I kind of said too. It felt kind of awkward, but shout out to you, Terry, for doing it, and you'll get better at it. And it was still good. Moses said it's out of his comfort zone to stand up and talk to everybody, but his play on the field is so great and how he carries himself in practice. When the guy opens his mouth, everybody will listen. And Moses has encouraged Terry McLaurin to be more vocal, and I think that you need that. When you really look at Terry McLaurin, in high school, he wasn't that highly recruited. He wasn't a 5-star recruit, so he's never been the guy. I'm sure he was on his high school team regardless, but he probably wasn't out there pumping people up. In college, he was like Adam and Eva talked about. He wasn't thrown to as much because he was the best blocker on the team. He was somebody who was just going to go out there and be grimy and dirty. So there was other leaders on that Ohio State team. Last year, he was a rookie. He had a breakout. We finally saw what he could do. And now he's kind of developing. It's going to take a little bit, but getting more comfortable as a leader. And he's somebody who he should be a leader. He should step up. He's the best player on that team, possibly. He's definitely the best player on offense. So I think Terry McLaurin, I think Morgan Moses is 100% right. And shout out to Morgan Moses for continuing to encourage him.
Yeah, and Jack Del Rio quoted that tweet of the video of Terry McLaurin giving that speech. He says, never too early to lead. And Jack Del Rio is 100% right about that. Now, Hall, who is your MVP of the season so far for the Washington football team?
I am going to go with someone that people were not really down on, but I guess they expected more from his rookie season. But you could kind of see in the back half of the season, you could kind of see him starting to shine, kind of do his thing. And it's carried over into this season, baby. The one and only Montez Sweat. I don't have his numbers. Yeah, I don't have his numbers in front of me. I probably should have been doing that, but But I know he leads the league in
pressures.
Yeah, pressures. I'm pretty sure he leads the team in sacks.
Yeah, he does. He leads the team in sacks.
He's been playing the run since last year. That's what everyone's been saying about him. I know they were like, oh, he's a freak athlete. He should be getting sacks, blah, 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 blah. But he's always been stout against the run since day one. He's continued that. He carried it over into year 2. You can kind of see that the influence from Ron Rivera and Del Rio on this new defense and them kind of being like linebackers and kind of like defensive guys. You can kind of see the influence that they put on Montez Sweat. The Chase Young influence has obviously been huge, but definitely Montez Sweat in year 2 is my MVP through week 8.
So real quick, Montez Sweat, you talked about his pressures and what he's doing. And not only does he lead the team in sacks, but he's far and away the leader in pressures as well. Yeah. He has 27 total pressures on the year. The next closest person to him is Jonathan Allen with 15. So he leads that by a pretty wide margin. And it's just been incredible. He also leads in hits on the quarterback. The next closest to him is Jonathan Allen with 2. He has 6. And hurries, he has 16. Next closest, Jonathan Allen with 12. So Montez Sweat has just been the best defensive lineman on this team.
Yep.
Yeah, he has. But look, my MVP vote, it's going to take everyone for a whirlwind a little bit, but
John Bostic.
my MVP vote is Morgan Moses. And the reason why I say that
That's
is
good.
this offensive line has been depleted through the first 7 games of the season. They lost Brandon Sheriff, and Morgan Moses talked about he was the temporary captain while Sheriff was out. Then that left guard spot, it's been up in the air. Nobody knows what's happening with it. We have Wes Schweitzer's done a good job with it. We thought Sadiq Charles was going to take that job. So the offensive line and the offense has been in shambles, but there's been one consistent aspect there, and it's Terry and it's Morgan. And I felt like Morgan taking that C on his chest and kind of rallying the troops, speaking with them, talking with Terry McLaurin, having him be more vocal. I love that from Morgan. I felt like he deserves that because he has been the leader that this team had needed during the stretch, especially that kind of veteran leadership to say, hey guys, coach is going through some stuff. We got to stick to what we're doing. And I feel like that's what Morgan Moses is doing. In my opinion, I feel like he deserves the MVP vote for the first half of the season.
Yeah, that's a good, my bad. That's a good pick because I mean, when we talked to him before, I feel like once Trent was kind of like, you kind of tell he wasn't really coming back and he was on the way out. I feel like Morgan Moses kind of took it on himself personally to kind of be like, all right, Trent's been that guy in the locker room. He's been kind of the anchor for the whole team, not just like for the linemen, but for the whole team. So for me being like pretty much the longest tenured guy in that locker room, more than likely, I can't think of anyone else. Maybe
No, yeah, he should
maybe
be.
like Sunberg, like the long snapper.
Ryan
someone like that.
Kerrigan,
Maybe yeah. Oh, Kerrigan, duh.
Yeah.
But
but offensive side.
yeah, offensive side is exactly. So yeah, it's big of him. And then I think I saw that John Kahn had a quote from Moses as well, that's pretty much saying that like he wanted to take it on himself to kind of be like that veteran leader, where it's like giving guys advice or uh, just giving them like help on certain plays, like kind of staying on top of guys. So again, shout out to Morgan Moses, who
Yeah.
again since this offseason has been putting in mad work, and it's definitely showed. And I think that he's on his way to maybe being like a Pro Bowler this year, to be honest.
Yeah.
And look, I was going to say, that's on like all the reasons I said, didn't even talk about how great he's playing at the level that he's playing. And he's playing at a Pro Bowl level, like you said, Hall.
And that's one thing to get back to what you guys both said, the off the field stuff and just him being so consistent. Is he talked to us about that when he was on our show. He talked about how it meant so much to him that Jason Hatcher kind of took him under his wing and showed him how to be a pro. And now he's trying to be that guy to some of these younger guys on the team. And it's really shown. And he has been consistent. He's having his best season. I was bummed when he towards the end of the game when it looked like he got hurt. I mean, so far, everything I've heard, he's okay. And I hope he is, because Morgan Moses has been the most consistent player on that offensive line by far.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Morgan told Serge that he was okay. Serge put that on Twitter, I think, 2 nights ago, that everything was fine. He walked off the field. But, yeah, you're absolutely right. Morgan is he's playing well, man. And, look, I think the team altogether we're going to see a different team again against the Giants than we saw the first time. We saw a team that kept shooting themselves in the foot. And one of the reasons why I believe that is because Ron Rivera rang the bell yesterday at Inova Cancer Treatment Center. He finished his cancer treatment. Finally, congratulations to Coach. So happy that happened. Now he can finally kind of get back to normal, because look, he gets hired to the Washington football team. Coronavirus goes down. The name change happens. The WAPO article comes out. And then the Dwayne Haskins scenario goes down. Then he gets cancer. And it's just like this whole year has just been like pile on. Finally, hopefully he can get back to normal here. And so much congratulations to Coach. Yeah. That's a huge feat. Yeah. And I said on Twitter, he's been leading by strength.
Yeah, exactly. And the players notice that too. You hear the players talking about Ron Rivera, Jonathan Allen talking about Ron Rivera. They're saying, they're like, look, if Coach can be out there going and getting chemo or going and getting treatment every Monday, whatever he's been doing, we can go out there and we can play football. He's still showing up. He's still there at every game, even though he needs to get an IV at halftime. He's leading by example. And it's been so fantastic that, like, as much as it sucks, it's also shown these guys like what a true leader does. And I think it's kind of been a blessing in disguise if cancer can be that.
Yeah. I mean, look, you can kind of, like I said before, you can kind of tell the impact that Ron's been having on the locker room, and the guys have definitely 100% and 1,000% bought in to everything he's trying to do. And I think that, again, it shows with guys like Morgan Moses. It shows with guys like Jonathan Allen. The leaders of the team just always coming out and praising him and kind of just praising like what he's done in the locker room. And kind of just saying how much fun they're having this year, even though it's been a losing season so far. We can say it's been a losing season, but they're having a lot of fun. They're building something special in that locker room, and it all started with Ron. So again, shout out to Coach Ron, and I'm glad you're done with it, and God bless.
Absolutely. God bless. That's a perfect way to say it. Now, before we get into possible trade scenarios for the Washington football team before the deadline that is approaching very rapidly, the HTWR podcast, Freddie and Maddie Jane, they wrote on our post earlier that they wanted us to talk about Dustin Hopkins and his woes. And they're absolutely right, because at this point, he's missed 4 kicks so far this season. We've been in 7 games, and there's been 1 game where he didn't even kick. So it's kind of like, what are we doing here, guys? And it's hard because of Corona with bringing in somebody because they'd have to sit for 2 weeks coming from a different state. So it's hard to be able to work out kickers. What is your confidence level for Dustin Hopkins? Is it almost time to hit the panic button, Reed?
Yeah, definitely. And I think if you're going to bring in another kicker, now's the time to do it with the bye week so they can sit. If it's going to take 2 weeks, now's the time to just get 1 week out of the way during the bye. But
the real question was how Hopkins has never been clutch and never will be, and that we haven't had a great kicker since the 80s.
And that's 100% true. And we not only then we had like the best kicker. Like we were winning. Our kicker was winning MVP awards.
The messed up thing is like we've had so many kickers come to the Washington football team, but the field has been so atrocious that it makes kicking field goals bad. We had David Akers here. Graham Gano was here.
Graham Gano played well.
Kai Forbath.
There's been a lot of them that if you go around the league and look at every starting kicker, I guarantee you at least 5 or 6 of them have been on our team as our kicker and played terrible.
Yeah.
And this is Dustin Hopkins. He's just been so unreliable. It's been disappointing. And I know that Sunday, especially this past Sunday with the rain, it was shitty, but it was bad for everybody. And you're an NFL player. And I think if he misses another extra point or another field goal, I think it's going to be lights out for him.
Yeah, it's weird because every single time that he's missing these, he's missing them to the right. And it's like he's missing the curve on the ball. It's like he's expecting a lot. Every time you see it going right and it doesn't cut in, it's so weird. And it's not the holder's fault. The holder is holding a good ball. I hope he fixes it soon because, look, Maddie Jane and Freddie are absolutely right. He hasn't been clutch as of late. Look, going back to London game, he missed the field goal, which ended up going to a tie, right? He never been clutch. Absolutely right.
Look, I've been wanting to hit the panic button. Dustin Hopkins, in the beginning when he first was here, he was making field goal. He wasn't like as clutch, but let's be honest, he never really needed to be clutch because we're never in clutch situations. But I mean, he was always kicking, like, you know what I'm saying, like never really missed a field. He missed one here and there, but I'll give you one here and there. Like everyone misses one there.
Right.
But that being said, even going back to last year, like I don't know what has been going on with this dude, but I'm not going to say he's been going downhill, but he's not been getting better. He's kind of just been stagnant with a couple dips, and then he's back to stagnant and then a couple dips. So like you said, I hope that he gets it worked out, whatever he's going through, and fixes whatever technique he needs to fix that's making him push it right. But, yeah, coming down, we're going to need some clutch situations, it looks like, coming down to these last 8 weeks of the season. So hopefully he gets it turned around because I think that it's going to come down to that Week 17 game against Philadelphia for the division. And we all know how Washington fares in the last game of the season division games.
Yeah, and especially against Philly, they do pretty well, don't they? We have some good memories.
I have some good dreams about Philly.
I hope not. Now, let's talk about some trade scenarios for the Washington football team. The trade deadline is coming up very rapidly, and there's been some big names that have been talked about that have been rumored to be out there. Zach Ertz at the tight end position is one. Michael Thomas of the Saints. Marvin Jones of Detroit. A.J. Green, Julio Jones. And then the Vikings possibly shipping out Kyle Rudolph, Harrison Smith, and Anthony Harris. Let's talk about some of these scenarios, guys. Reed, which one do you think is most plausible, could happen, and that you'd like to see?
I think it really depends. I mean, obviously, with Landon Collins gone, you would like to see if Harrison Smith, if you could get him, or even Anthony Harris cheap, you would love to do something like that. Obviously, apparently, Justin Simmons may even be available, but. I don't know. That's going to cost a lot to get somebody like that. I would still like to see the team bring in a receiver. I know a lot of people will say tight end. I think that Logan Thomas I still want to see what he can do. So I think somebody like Marvin Jones, as long as you don't have to give up too much for him. I know we talked about it earlier. I know he hasn't been that good this season, but he's still done better than Dontrell Inman. I think that he's somebody who could really kind of teach somebody like Antonio Gandy Golden how to play football, how to be a pro. They're kind of similar players who would give us a big body on the opposite side of Terry McLaurin. And even somebody that I said earlier, or somebody that I had said before, somebody like Kenny Stills, just a veteran, just an absolute veteran. Over there in Houston, they're basically having a fire sale, it seems like, for everybody. Same within Minnesota. So if you can get a Riley Reef, if you can get one of the safeties, if you can get one of these wide receivers, I say go for it. As long as you're not giving up too much for him, I'm down for anything.
Yeah, look, the hardest and most difficult part for this with me is at what point are you giving away too much in assets of the future for just a fix now? And when does that kind of start making sense to be able to do that? And that's where I kind of feel with like Marvin Jones, he might be probably the better option because he wouldn't be requesting all that much. I'd be sitting there from the Washington football team. Obviously, I'm trying to go after Kenny Galladay instead. I want to be able to, and that's going to cost more.
Exactly. Are they even going to get rid of Kenny Galladay? Right. I mean, Galladay, I think anybody would want to have Kenny Galladay.
So, like, at what point is the cutoff, right? Because with Michael Thomas, you could say, look, they're going to be asking way too much. I don't think there's a possibility.
Right. Apparently, Stephon Gilmore's available too. I just read that, but obviously that's going to take a first-round pick. Not doing that. As good as he is, lockdown corner, no. But yeah, apparently he's being made available.
But like the cutoff point for me, the baseline is with giving away of assets, and somebody like Michael Thomas, unless they can kind of maybe ship Ryan Kerrigan in the 2-3s to the Saints for Michael Thomas, but I feel like that's still not enough.
But it's not enough. No, it's not enough. And even the 3s, you got to kind of look at our last few third-round draft picks. We've been doing very good in the third round lately with Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin, some of these guys. So even those third rounders, I'm a little bit hesitant to get rid of, even for Michael Thomas. And I don't even think that wouldn't get it done for Michael Thomas anyway.
Right.
So I think Michael Thomas played for Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, we can cut him off the list. Obviously, we're not going to get Michael Thomas. I think that's a legit point.
People are saying Julio Jones too. You can cut Julio Jones off that list as well.
I love Julio, and I think that he would obviously fit right in and do well. But the problem is, you don't want to give up assets for an old Julio Jones. That's what the old regime did, and that's not what we want to have happen here. And that's how I feel about Zach Ertz. As much as we want to talk about, everyone talks about the tight end position being such a bad position, Logan Thomas is playing better with more consistent QB play. I think he's still starting to build and do better. I like him there. Zach Ertz, I don't want to touch.
Zach Ertz is always hurts.
AJ Green, I don't want to touch. But
nursery rhyme.
AJ Green might actually cost probably as much as Marvin Jones when you think about it.
Yeah, he might. Seriously, with the last couple of years, with the last few years that he's had, with the young receivers that they have over there in Cincinnati, he's not going to cost that much. But so I could definitely – he's somebody who I would love to bring in for the right price. It's not going to cost an arm and a leg. Yeah.
But I will say I would not be – if it might not cost that much for Harrison Smith and Anthony Harris, for either one of them. And I feel like either one of them you could fit right into this scheme and they would be able to start playing and playing well.
Isn't it crazy what one bad season can do? Because Minnesota made it a point to franchise tag or to keep Anthony Harris. Then they signed him for a good amount of money. And Harrison Smith, you would have to give up a first rounder for sure to get him last year. This year, it's okay. Well, they're kind of rebuilding. They'll kind of take whatever they can get, fire sale, go out there and get rid of them. So it's just weird what one bad season can do to a team.
Yeah. If I'm Washington, I'm getting on the phone with Green Bay and I'm trying to call up Aaron Rodgers. It's like, nah. But honestly, like the only one that would really make sense to me would to bring in. Well, there's obviously a couple scenarios, but I'd probably go receiver just because, like you were saying, Kyle. At what point do you want to start giving away draft picks and kind of guys that you can bring in as core guys or possible core guys and build upon, make your team younger, as opposed to like the right now fix just to get a couple 1-2 extra wins, maybe get a division win, and I don't know, see what happens in the playoffs. Even though 9 times out of 10 we're gonna get mud stomped anyway if we play in the playoffs,
Right?
But that being said, I would definitely Marvin Jones, AJ Green. Those are the two guys that are like probably on my list. Just because, again, you maybe give up a conditional 5th round pick for someone like one of those two guys or something like that. Marvin Jones is definitely that speedy deep threat guy that could go opposite Terry. He can work the intermediate routes as well. He's a great crossing route guy. And then AJ Green, I know he's injury prone a lot. He's kind of been off and on this season, but these last 2 weeks when he's kind of finally got back to the rhythm of things, he's been putting up a couple catches per game. Kind of a possession guy now, not really like the deep threat he used to be, but we need a possession guy that's better than Dontre Ullman at this point. So those two guys are on my radar, and I wouldn't be surprised to just stand pat and go with what they got, honestly.
Same. Yeah, me too. And Bleacher Report has an article out right now about potential trades. They have AJ Green getting traded for a 3rd-round pick, I believe.
Whoa, that's
the
really
Saints
high.
Or something, right? Yeah. But then they have us. These are just blockbuster trades that they say could happen. Us trading Ryan Kerrigan to the Seahawks for a 3rd-round pick.
They do need a pass rusher. Right?
Yeah, so. I would take a 3rd-round pick for him at this point. I love him, respect to him, but I also think he deserves to win.
They were talking about this on Grant, or I think it was the Junkies. Actually, it was the Junkies this morning. They were pretty much saying that like anything a 4th and above, which you're not going to get anything more than like a 4th, 3rd would be stupendous. I mean, honestly, if someone came to Washington and was like, look, we're going to give you a 3rd-round pick for Ryan Kerrigan. Hey, I know Ryan's like the cornerstone of this Washington community and team. And he's great for the guys in the locker room.
It'd be hard to watch, man.
It'd be hard to watch, but you can't pass up a 3rd-round pick.
No, of course not. No.
And at the same time, it would be good if a team that is as bad on defense and needs a pass rusher like Seattle, who's actually could win a Super Bowl, if since Ryan Kerrigan got the record for us for sacks, if then he could go up to a team and win a Super Bowl, I would be so happy for the dude. I would
might have put him on that fringe kind of Hall of Fame kind of. Is he gonna make it? Like later, not like later on in life, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, not first ballot, but
But the one thing that concerns me, I'm not sure if the Washington football team would be willing to get rid of Ryan Kerrigan at this point. They lost Matt Ioannidis, and they have injuries there. And we saw from Philly's Super Bowl run. I'm not saying the Washington football team's going to win the Super Bowl. We saw from the Philly Super Bowl run, their defensive line, with how many assets they have, they could just exchange guys in and out, and it made their defense that good. I feel like that is a weapon right now for this Washington football team. And if Matt Ioannidis was healthy, I think 100% yes. Let's get rid of him. But because of that, I just don't see that happening because Ryan Anderson's seeing some time right now. So Montez Sweat just had a concussion. I think that probably has something to do with it as well. I just don't see it happening with Ryan. And I want him to retire here. It would suck to see him go because if obviously, like you said, if a 3rd rounder is being offered, you got to pull the trigger. But I'm just not sure if that's what's going to happen.
And look, at the end of the day, if he does get traded, he could always come back, even though it would suck and it'd be like kind of like really and kind of whack. But you can always sign that 1-day contract and retire a Washington player, everything, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, no, I don't think he's going anywhere. I think Ron respects him too much to kind of, unless Kerrigan says, hey, I kind of want to go try to win a ring my latter years. Like, what's good? Could you move me? But again, I don't even think Kerrigan's that type of guy. He's just going to ride it out. He's been riding it out for all these years now. Right. Why jump ship now whenever we're starting to actually build something? So,
yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Now, Jason Wright, again, just wanted to mess with everybody. He talked about in his presidential debrief to the Washington Football Team Nation, the name change could come mid-2021. I absolutely love that idea. I'm glad to hear it. And he said he wasn't sure that the product would be able to be released for the 2021 season. But I'm telling you right now, what that's telling you is that name's going to be released mid-2021.
Mm-hmm. I mean, look, it goes back to what Cooley was saying, where he was like, I talked to someone that I respect highly and like is like a high source type of person,
and not just a hot intern.
Exactly. Yeah. That's outside of the organization. And they said they already had a name picked, and it was just a matter of getting everything like crossing their T's and dotting their I's and branding, blah blah blah, all that high $1 million, $1 billion merchandise stuff. But yeah, I think that again, whenever I think he, like you say, I think he just wanted to kind of just get things like riled up again and kind of like get people talking about it again because everyone was freaking out like, oh, we're going to keep the name, blah, 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 blah. Then all of a sudden, well, actually, it could be here mid-2021. And people were like, oh, yay. So, yeah, I think they already had the name picked out. And I think it's just a matter of time at this point.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think if Jason Wright's saying mid-2021, I think that's when you can expect it. And I believe what he says. I trust the man. He just has a very trustworthy face. I just
Yeah,
believe him.
because I honestly believe that if they didn't have the name in mind already, they wouldn't be putting a date on it. They wouldn't be putting any sort of expectation. It would be. We told you guys it could possibly take up to 2 years.
But it could be 2021.
Right. No, but I honestly believe that Jason Wright is.
They wouldn't get your hopes up like this. Just
right. Jason Wright is incredibly smart. He is intelligent. He understands business and marketing. I really do believe that. And he knew that ruffling the feathers a little bit because he knew everyone doesn't love this name. That even the people like Andy who love it still want another name. They don't want it to legit stay here. They don't think it's going to. And like Ron Rivera said, they want to have a name that can stand for 100 years. And the Washington football team, I don't believe, is a marketable name. But Jason Wright is very smart, and he knows that if he ruffles the feathers, pisses everyone off, it's going to start the pitchforks. Everyone's going to be riled up. What is it? What is it? What is it? And he's absolutely right because that's what we're doing now. And I think they already have the name. They're going to release it probably around the draft time. It's probably when the ticket sales are going to be up, and that way they can start rolling it in.
That actually would be pretty smart.
I do think they will have a new name by the start of the season next year.
Yeah,
I will say.
no, for sure. I would imagine that it would be right before the draft. That way they can show off a new hat, new logo at the draft when they want it to be. As long as we're not social distancing and the owner of the NFL doesn't have to toss a hat to our next draft pick. I think that they'll have it somehow before then.
Yeah, and the Washington football team announced that they are going to allow 3,000 fans, season ticket holders.
That's more than they usually have.
Yes. Into the stadium
on
to
top
watch
of the
the
Zings
game.
tonight.
I will tell you this.
I'm on it.
If anybody has offering a ticket, if anyone has one they're selling or want to give away, let me have it. We live in the area. This is a monumental game. We want to go to it. Please let us know. If you got any, I'm all ears. Please let me know. Now, let's wrap up this episode, fellas, with our NFL reactions. Every Tuesday, we talk about the NFL in particular and a couple games or players that stood out to us over the weekend. So, Hall, I'll start with you.
The old man, Tom Brady, definitely stuck out to me. I mean, everyone thought that after these first couple of weeks, they're like, oh, has he lost it? I can't remember what down it is. He's getting old. He's losing his memory. Like, what's going on? He was just like, took a page out of Aaron Rodgers' book, RELAX. I'm just going to come out here and drop a couple dimes on y'all. I'm going to throw 4 touchdowns. I'm going to throw 5 touchdowns. I'm going to have us as one of the top teams in the NFC. So definitely Tom Brady coming out and putting his name in the MVP race through week 8 has definitely been my surprise.
Yeah.
Get out of here, bro. You're right in front of the light. Dang.
Yeah, I'm gonna first of all just start this off with. You right there, Kyle?
Yeah, Hall just did a drug deal on camera.
Nah, that was my dog.
Exactly.
That's all I was thinking of. I was like, oh my god.
It was your dog. Homie,
Get it, my dog.
That's what I was saying. I'm just gonna start this off by saying this was one of the best weekends for games I've seen in a very long time. The 1 o'clock games were all fantastic. They all came down to the wire. I thought that the Bengals won with Joe Burrow's big old nuts swinging around, and then Baker Mayfield came down and throws a dime for the game-winning touchdown. You know, there's so many games that were so close to going to overtime. I mean, if you look at Monday night. That was a fantastic game. The battle of the unbeatens with the Titans and the Steelers. But I was so impressed with Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers coming out again after having a game which he didn't play too well, and then coming out and just lighting it up with Davante Adams. And Davante Adams is like, oh, you people are talking about the best wide receiver in the NFL, and everybody's always talking about Michael Thomas and Julio Jones, and they're great, but you guys forget about me. I am very good right now, and I'm probably the best route runner in the entire NFL. And he's just out there doing his thing, and shout out to them. He played fantastic.
Yeah, look, that's a great pick. I went against Davante Adams in fantasy.
Yeah,
44 points. Absolutely just bludgeoned me to death. Now, let's switch it to another wide receiver. I think the Arizona Cardinals upsetting the Seattle Seahawks 37-34.
Somebody else.
Dude,
He could be number one.
That and the NFC West, I saw somebody actually say, I think it was Lewis Riddick or somebody like that. They put on Twitter today that they would like to see the NFC West have the ability to have 3 teams in the playoffs or having 2 wild card spots because all 4 of those teams are playing incredibly well right now.
The NFC West is literally the exact opposite of the NFC East.
Yeah.
That is like our kryptonite. Like they are They're yin, we're yang. They're good, we're evil.
And we're playing the West this year. What do you know?
Yeah, and we're gonna get stomped by every one of those teams. The 2 teams we have remaining. Ass whooped.
Yeah, look, they.
I could actually see us randomly pulling off.
I could see us winning against San Fran.
And Tyler Lockett absolutely just blew the doors off everybody.
Hey, how about that play by DK Metcalf though, where he chased down Buda Baker,
ran 108 yards.
Ultimately, didn't end up mattering, but that was just impressive to see somebody that big run down Baker. He was an undersized 5'9", 5'10" safety.
Hey, and if we're recapping the NFL, to be perfectly honest, we have to talk how bad the Cowboys are. I mean, my goodness.
It's kind of sad.
It's the polar opposite of the Washington football team. You see, they're almost in similar situations with the records, but the head coaches and the admiration for the coaches is what the discrepancy is. And look at the difference in the team output.
That's exactly what I was saying before this game. It's like they're 2 complete opposites in the locker room, where it's like our guys are completely bought into our coach. I know that our record necessarily hasn't shown that, but Dallas, it's like they're having leaks out of their locker room and they don't believe in their head coach at all. I know Jerry Jones does, but then again, Jerry Jones also believed in Jason Garrett for way too long. So that's not really saying much. But Mike McCarthy, man, he is not a good head coach. He's just not that good of a head coach. And he has so much talent on the team he still does, even with Dak injured. I mean, good God, they are playing terrible. Mike Nolan is playing like shit as a defensive coordinator, not playing because he's not doing that.
He's calling a bad game. I understand.
Dallas, but they have a terrible O-line right now. I know that they got hit by the injury bug, but they are bad. Like, they are playing terrible. CeeDee Lamb, I told my friends were hitting me up for fantasy advice, and I was like, yeah, dude, just go ahead and start CD. I know he's still going to get the ball, like, whatever. And the guy, I was like, he's been targeted at least 5 times a game. Well, you should have seen the other people who he was up against. Start CeeDee Lamb. But CeeDee Lamb got targeted 5 times.
I was just going to say, he got targeted.
Catch the ball 5
he dropped every single pass.
He just didn't have a catch.
Right.
So,
I mean, it's like we said earlier, like, it's kind of like they've adopted us because we were like the injury-bitten team. We lost our quarterback. We're down to our third-string quarterback. We're bringing in guys off the street.
Yeah,
everyone's just like, I hate Jay. Get him out of here. I
think that they're going to have one of our seasons where we had the Josh Johnson season and Mark Sanchez and all those guys where we're bringing in guys.
It's so funny.
Dallas is like a quarterback away from that.
Yeah, I was going to talk about last season and the season before is kind of what the Cowboys are going through. When you look at it, I mean, last year they had Dwayne Haskins, Case Keenum, and Colt McCoy. They went through all 3 quarterbacks. Defense was getting gashed, one of the worst in history. They couldn't get the run game going. Similar type of circumstances.
Look, and that's exactly why I don't feel bad for them because they was doing all that yapping. We're going through it now. We're the ones that are trying to explain it. Like, look at our injuries, blah 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 blah. Yeah. Well, I don't want to hear none of that now because you're going through the same thing. Right. I don't want to hear none of the look at our injuries, blah blah blah.
They were picked for the Super Bowl by so many people before this season. and then also, how about the fact that Andy Dalton 110% has CTE now? Like, if he didn't before, he has it now.
Dude,
like
John Bostic.
I understand it's a bang play, but that was I was like, Bostic, no.
Dude, I thought Bostic killed him. I legit
the way that he laid there.
I wrote into our group chat. I was like, John Bostic just killed Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton wasn't moving. He was just laying on the ground. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Hey, look,
that was bad.
Yeah, I talked about it in a post-game pod. It was a very, very bad decision by John Bostic. Jack Del Rio talked about on Monday that he's not that type of player. He's not out there headhunting. He just made a bad decision there. He has to give.
It was a bang play.
Yeah,
he was going low before Andy Dalton slid, but you gotta pull back somehow. You got to do something.
And I
a lot of people will say that Andy Dalton should have slid like a half a step before that. Also, like I'm not obviously not putting it on Andy Dalton. Like
that's completely
shouldn't have got rocked. Like it was completely on Bostic. But with that being said, it's like, why are you trying to get that extra half a yard? Just slide, take your lumps, go to play the next play. But again, completely horrible hit. Definitely should have got ejected. I don't think he should have got suspended. Definitely going to get a huge fine. But I mean.
Did you see it? I'm pretty sure when John Bostic hit Andy Dalton, I'm pretty sure he knocked his soul out. When Andy Dalton took off his helmet, he was a ginger. And they don't have souls, as we know.
You're absolutely right. And it's messed up because that was 3rd and 1. I understood why John Bostic was trying to make sure that Andy couldn't slide for that. But you want, give yourself the ability to give up on that play. I know you want to be you want to stop that. It's a bang play, like you said, Reed, but Just got to be smarter, John. And John's not that type of player.
Yeah.
I hope Andy is all right. I hope he doesn't like CTE. Doesn't have CTE like Reed had joked about.
I don't think anybody likes it.
Right.
I didn't
I hope he
mean
doesn't
that.
like CTE. It's not a wrestling company, Kyle. It's
Like a security company.
But even CTE, it's like, or CTE world champion. But even Zeke's playing terrible. Zeke got lit up by Cole Holcomb in one of the funniest plays you'll watch.
Easily my favorite play of the weekend.
Favorite play of the weekend. And Zeke, he also fumbled 2 times the game before. Like he hasn't.
And he had that tip pass that Cole Holcomb ended up picking off. So
Cole Holcomb was just all over Zeke.
Yeah,
and he was all over him.
So much credit to the defense.
It's the mullet. It's the
mullet season.
Yeah, it's the mullet.
And speaking of the mullet season, everybody, we're gonna end this episode because that should be the end of. No more mullets.
I'm just
kidding. No more mullets. Come on, no more mullets.
And speaking of Ukraine, we're gonna end this episode.
All right, everybody.
But Kyle, you gotta watch the new Joe Rogan. Did you see who's on it?
No.
It's Alex Jones and Tim Dillon.
Oh, no way. No, just send me the highlights because, dude, Alex Jones is, dude, all he is just a highlight reel. That guy is hilarious.
I had a big bowl of chili this morning.
Yeah, nobody takes him seriously. We just laugh at him because he's just so funny. I'm serious.
Funny.
You can't take him seriously. If you watch it like you're watching Michael Scott in The Office, you're gonna have a good time. I guarantee.
You're gonna love it. And then Tim Dillon's like one of the funniest human beings in the world, I think. So just watch that. It's fucking hilarious.
Right. All right, everybody. Make sure you check us out again on Thursday. We will be recording again and talking about the bye week. And then on Sunday, I'll be joining forces with the HTVR podcast and the Burgundy Network podcast for the bye week mid-season kind of report on the Washington football team. So make sure you guys check that out. Those guys are incredibly talented. All right, everybody. I'm Kyle.
I'm still tasting the nice sweetness of victory.
And I'm...
No,
go ahead. And I'm poor. Somebody send me money. My Venmo is...
I'm poor. Send me money. All right, everybody. You remember, go like and share us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, iTunes, Spotify, Google Pods. We are all over the stratosphere. All right, everybody. We'll see you on Thursday. Washington football.